Welcome back, and today we are going to make the front door. Last time we made the garage door. Get this thing so it looks pretty good and kind of almost finished on the exterior. And we'll see if we have time to do some soffits and fascia, make that trim work look a little bit good. So here we go. Let's first of all start by, we need to measure. I believe that I made the opening 38. Gotta do some measuring here, and I got to find out. I believe that I made the distance from that point to that point as 38. Yes. And now I'm going to make sure that I'm going to measure again. Let's see if I can do that point to. It's a little tricky to see things in here and know exactly where I'm going to that point. Oops, I guess I got to go back down to the bottom to that point. 89.471. Ooh, that's a weird number, but it'll work. Let me try measuring just that line. 81. Okay, I must have grabbed the wrong thing. So it's 81 high. And 38 wide. And the reason why it's that big is because we got to have some space to put the door in. So doors come usually, a 36-inch door is about 37 wide, including the door jamb. That's why it's 38 wide, give you a little bit of space, or it's about 37 and a half. And the height is 80. So we're going to make sure that we have that correct when we put that guy in. All right, here we go. Let's start a new part studio, please. We're going to use that sweep function again. Let's go ahead and sketch on the front. No, I take that back. No, I don't take it back. Let's sketch on the front. I'm trying to think about how to orient it so it will come into the assembly the right way. Sketch on the front. P to turn off planes, and for normal. And this time we're going to make a little bit different of a way of doing this. We're going to use a sweep. And we used sweep before, but let's make sure we're going vertical. Click. Now I'm way too short right now. We're going to go 81 high. Okay. And we're going to go 38 over, and we're going to make this fit exactly, even though in the real world it would be a little bit smaller, so that you can use shims and things to get the door straight, because the door frame is not always perfectly straight, but you want the door to be perfectly straight, and so it allows a little bit of movement to get that door straight and square and parallel. But we're going to make exact sizes, so I'm going to click and go 38. And then we're going to come back down and line up with that point right there. Make sure that we're both vertical and horizontal. And that also is going to be 81. Okay. Now, if you typed in that line, it would have turned red. So you only need those guys right there. Now, this one's going to be a little weird because we're going to sweep a path around that. So go to your plane command. Whoops, I got to get out of the sketch. Okay, so out of the sketch, we're going to put a plane. Actually, we already have a plane. If you started on that origin point, we already have a plane that we can draw on. We have that top plane that is perpendicular to that. If you didn't start on the origin point, you're going to have to go back to the beginning of this video and start that over again. So we are going to sketch on that top plane. Notice that that plane shows up perpendicular to that line. So we're going to get to kind of what we consider the bottom of it and hit N for normal. Okay, and now all we see is that point. All right, so we're going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to make the door jamb. Now the door jamb is going to be the 3.5 plus that 3/4 inch siding plus some of the stuff or the drywall on the inside. That's the width of it. It's designed to take up that space. Now, our house is a little bit different, so we're going to make a rectangle. Now, we're going to come inside, not outside. Make sure that we're coming in towards the line that exists. And I'm going to make that, let's see, 3.5 plus, it's going to be a 3/4 inch thick, 0.75 inch thick piece. Enter, and the width is going to be 4.25, I think. 3.5 plus 3/4, yeah, 4.25. Okay. So that is our door jamb. And we're going to make one more rectangle that is going to be that 4.25. Let's make it, if I make that an inch, that's going to be fine. So we're going to make it just 0.25 in, 0.25. And we're going to make it an inch. And we're going to put, you know what, folks? If I make a mistake, you make a mistake. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to make another rectangle, but I'm not going to connect it this time. So follow with me. 0.25 and 1. There we go. Now, I'm going to use my constraints, my coincident constraint to put, oops, I got to do dots. Forgot that. So go up here to point. We're going to put a point on the middle of that and a point on the middle of that when that square shows up. Now we're going to use coincident constraint to lock together those 2 points. There we go. We've done that before. Now I want to get a measurement so for later between this point and that point. Whoa, I don't know what just happened. Let's just try that again. Sketch could not be solved. Well, let's undo whatever it is that I just did. Let's measure again. There to there. 1.625. That's 1 5/8 is how thick that door is going to be. So it's actually 1.5 with the 1/8 inch gap. That'll work. All right. Now that we're done with that door frame and door jamb. The jamb is what the door hits up against. That's why they call it a door jamb, right? Because it jams up against that board and won't go any farther. All right, so now we are going to do a sweep. We've done this once before, or maybe a couple times, and we're going to do both of those profiles, that one and that one. Okay? And our sweep path, click on that, is going to be that line and that line and that line. And there is our door jamb and our door frame. Cool. All right. Now we're going to make the door that goes in there. Now the door is going to float a little bit and it's going to be inset into there. So it's actually going to be a different part because it's not going to be touching that first part, and that's okay. So we're going to sketch on a flat surface of the door. It doesn't really matter what side, it's because it's symmetrical. We're going to look straight at that. We're going to make a little rectangle. Now, that rectangle is going to start inside. We'll dimension it later, but we're going to start it kind of halfway between that corner and that corner. And again, we'll dimension it later. Okay, so we're going to zoom out and then zoom back in, and we're going to come back. Watch carefully where I'm going. I'm going just inside, but we're going up a little bit off of the bottom to give it the door some clearance. Now this is an exterior door, which would be a solid door, and it would also have a threshold on the bottom of it, but we're not going to take the time to make that. That would also, if when rain hits it, it allows rain to flow off the bottom. Make sure you're not lined up with anything. That's not what we want. We want to go right there. All right. Now we're going to do some dimensioning. And what we want is we want a 1/8 inch gap all the way around. So we're going to go from that edge to that edge. It's going to be 0.125. It moved a little bit on me, but that's okay. We're going to go, let's do the top now. Just kind of work our way around. So from that edge, not the jamb, but the outside edge of the door to here, it's going to be 0.125. Same thing on the left, from there to there, 0.125. And finally, we're going to make the door 81, which should, or sorry, 80, which should make us just barely up off the ground. So we're going to dimension again, but this time we're going to do the line that makes the edge of the door, or we can go from the bottom point to the top point. Make sure you get the right line. That's the edge of that rectangle that we're making. And we're going to make that 80. Let's look at the bottom to make sure that we're just a little bit, just a little bit up off the bottom. Okay, we're good. Finish your sketch. Okay. And now we're going to extrude. Make sure you go inward, and we're going to go 1.5. Extrude that. I'm going to go the other way, 1.5. All right, now notice there are two parts, and there have to be because they're actually not touching each other. That door is floating inside of that door jamb, which is the way that it should be. In the real world, the hinges would support that door inside of there. So let's go ahead and name our parts. Part 1 is going to be the door. We'll just call it the jamb, even though it's the jamb and the frame. And part 2 is going to be the door. While we're at it, let's go ahead and call the thing that we're working on, which I don't know what tab we're working on. Somewhere in here is my tab that I'm working on at the beginning, and I'm going to right click on that and rename it and call it front door. Front S door? No, just front door. There we go. All right, now I'm going to hide the door jamb for a minute. I need to know which way front is facing the front. Now, exterior doors almost always open into the home, and makes sense if you think about it, because if it opens outside, then it's getting wet and rainy and stuff, and normally we're protecting the house. So we're going to look at this as the front. So really on the view cube, it says back. So I got to make sure I know which way I'm looking at this, because we're going to do some decorative stuff and make it look all pretty and so on and so forth. Now, before I get started with that, we're going to do the same thing we did with the garage door and make our trim as one part of the door jamb. So let's sketch on that front flat surface here. And so make sure that you got the right surface. We're sketching on this flat front surface. And again, we're going to do a reveal so that it reveals some of this jamb as part of the trim. Gives it a really good look. So let's start by doing our lines here. Let's see if I can hook up to the middle. That's where we'll start. Okay? So we'll start there and we'll go out, making sure that I'm horizontal, and our trim is 2.25. We're being consistent all the way through, going up. I'll do my dimensioning later, making sure I'm now over on the side. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hover down here to this midpoint right there and hover. I want to make sure that I'm lined up with that. So I'm going to hover over until, there we go. See how that lines up? And make sure that both the horizontal and vertical show up. If that didn't work, you can always use your constraints to line it up. Okay? And we're going to come straight down to the middle. Oh, you know what? I'm on the outside. That is not what I meant to do. Sorry, folks. So from there, sorry, I messed that up, but that's okay. I'm going to go over 2.25 with another line. I forgot while I was going that I was on the outside and not on the inside. We're going to line up, make sure that we are both horizontal and vertical. I should have two things showing up. Oh, I am showing that. I am showing that I am lined up with this. And there's the two. Click, go to the middle. All right. Now, it's showing that it's gray because it's using those other lines, but I want to still do my reveal, so we have to do those other lines. Here we go. We're going to start from here. Click. We're going to go up to somewhere in the middle. I'll dimension it later, but I want to make sure that I'm parallel. I do not want to line up with that corner, so I want to make sure I'm vertical or parallel to that other line. I'm going to come over here again. Now I can line up with the bottom, and that's okay, because I want to line up with the middle of the bottom. There we go. And now the only thing I have to define is the height of this, which is going to be 3/8, 0.375. So we're going to dimension from there to there as 3/8, 0.375. And we're looking good for our trim. Oh, no, we're not, because I got to define the thickness, or sorry, the width of that board from there to there. It's 2.25. There we go. Now we're all looking good. And we're going to finish our sketch and extrude. I got to make sure I get the right stuff. See how it's not choosing all of it? I need to make sure I choose that and that all the way around. Make sure it's choosing it. Make sure it's going away from the door frame, and make sure it's adding, because it's going to become part of the door jamb. Good. All right, now we've got our door and our trim ready to install. All right, now if you remember, we cut out something to make for glass, and we put a different part in there that we made blue and we made transparent. We also have learned how to do something where we're only cutting part way into something. So for example, if you wanted to make a rectangular little indentation, you can do that by doing this and finishing your sketch and extruding that. But instead of we remove it, you can remove something like 0.5, and then it's going to make that little indentation like that. Okay, so the rest of the time is going to be to make a pattern on this door, or a type of door. So let's look at some some images of some exterior doors. Get some ideas, think about things. Now personally for me, I like craftsman style stuff, kind of like this. I really like that, with just basically square cutouts, but you can do kind of whatever you want. But the deal is, it's got to have some glass in it, okay, and it's got to have some sort of other recessed pattern in it. And you've learned how to do that. We've learned how to do different shapes. We've learned how to do sweep if you want to do that triangular thing, kind of like we did on the garage door. We've learned how to pattern shapes and how to make them symmetrical and mirror things. So your job now is, and I would, if it was me, I would turn off the door jamb for a while I'm working on the door, and then bring it back, right? And, you know, don't forget to adjust your colors and all of that stuff that we've done before. And you're going to then install the door. So at the end of all of this, of you making your door and making it the way that you want it, you're going to install it on the house. You're going to zoom kind of in, like maybe like that, so I can kind of see your your name and the door that you installed, and I can see what it looks like. So zoom in kind of like that, take a picture of that, and that's going to be what you turn in. All right, hope your door turns out beautiful. Hope you like it. Catch you next time where we completely finish this thing up.